Sarah Parry is a world champion at SpoGomi. What is SpoGomi? We will ask her in a moment. Sarah lives in the UK and I'm delighted to welcome her to Team Buzz Radio. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me on.
Can you tell our listeners what is SpoGomi?
Um, so that's a question I get asked quite a lot. Spagomi is a Japanese sport of competitive litter picking. So the name Spo and Gomi comes from sport and Gomi, which is the Japanese word for litter. So it's essentially a team sport where you work in a team of three to collect as much litter as you can in order to win points and then ultimately prizes.
Okay, so it's picking up rubbish, or if you're in America, picking up garbage. Wow,
Yeah.
and litter in England. Okay, can you tell me a bit about yourself? What's your profession? What do you like to do in your free time?
So I am a doctor by profession, and I usually work in intensive care medicine. And yeah, I fell into Spagomi by luck, really. And it's something that now I enjoy doing in my spare time. Before Spagomi, I am a very keen runner. And I like running long distance runs, particularly marathons. And I like playing netball as well with my friends.
Wow. How many marathons have you run?
I've run 31 marathons.
Whoa. Wow. And just out of interest, what was your favorite place to run a marathon?
So interestingly, a lot of the marathons I just run myself. They're not organized competitions. I did a really special marathon with one of my best friends along Glencoe in the Highlands of Scotland, and we managed to get Scotland on a sunny day, which is a really special thing.
Yes.
So that was probably one of the favorite ones I've done.
Wow. Can you explain more about Spaghetti, the scoring system? How does it work?
So essentially, how it works is you're in a team of three, and you're not allowed to run in Spigumi, but you're allowed to walk quickly. And so you essentially power walk through the area that you're given, that's within the boundaries of the game. So on the morning of the game, you're given a map of where you can and can't pick up litter, and within those boundaries, you're competing against all the other teams on the day to pick up the most rubbish. Um, Once you've collected as much rubbish you can within the allotted time period, which is normally 45 minutes or an hour, depending on if you're playing one game or two halves, then you have to collect all the litter and carry it back to the sorting area. Once you have all your collected litter in the sorting area, you then have to sort the litter into recycling categories, which, because it's a Japanese sport, are typically played in Japanese recycling categories. And then each recycling category is awarded a different number of points per kilogram. So, for example, glass bottles may not be worth as many points per kilogram as burnable plastic or cigarette butts.
Wow.
And the person with the most points, once all their different categories per kilogram is added up, wins.
Gee. You earlier said that you got into it by luck. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so interestingly, my brother actually lives in Brazil, and he ended up competing in the Brazilian qualifying events for the Spugome World Cup in 2023. So he randomly told us one day that he had won and become the Brazilian champion of Spugome, was then going on holiday to Japan to compete in the World Cup. So when he told my family that, we were, so excited, and I wanted my own opportunity to compete. So I ended up entering in the UK competition with two friends, and then we went on to win the World Cup ourselves in Japan. So it was quite funny because I ended up meeting my brother at the World Cup final in Japan, and this kind of sibling rivalry unplayed at the final.
Wow. And I bet he was very disappointed that he didn't win.
Yes, but he said he was proud of me that I won.
That's great. What's the most fun you've ever had picking up litter?
The most fun I've ever had picking up litter was definitely in the Spugumi World Cup 2023, because we were picking up litter in a really famous district of Japan, of Tokyo in Japan, called Shibuya. So that world famous Shibuya crossing with thousands of people crossing it every day. That was actually our ground for picking up litter. So with all the hustle and bustle and kind of Japanese environment and just things that are very different to me as someone from the UK, it was just such a cultural experience, but also so fun to be given the opportunity to take part and pick up litter there.
And what tactics do you use in the competition?
Well, I don't know if I want to share this.
mm,
They're top secret. Um, my biggest tactic would be um, basically pick up as much litter as you can is the point of the sport. But you want to in particularly be thinking about the weight of your items. So if you can find something that bit heavier, um, then that might be the thing that can get you over the finish line for winning.
okay, and how in the World Championship, how many kilos in how much time did you pick up?
I think we picked up 57 kilos of litter, and that was over an hour and a half. Yeah.
Wow. And there was three of you in the team?
Yeah, three of us in the team, yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, it was split into two halves, but um 57 kilos, it maybe actually doesn't sound like as much as it is, but
It's a
when
lot,
you have
57 kilos. It's my weight.
and
Yes.
yeah, and if you have to think about it, you don't get given any trolleys or bag. Like, you get given thin plastic bags to help you carry it. So a lot of it is actually about juggling how to carry the weight between the three people, and all whilst you're under quite strict time constraints as well. So if you don't come back to the sorting area within the time that you're allocated, there then start to be points penalties based on how late you are. So you're having to juggle quite a lot when you're playing.
Wow. So you have to carry the bags full of rubbish around with you as you're collecting.
Yeah, and then sometimes the bag starts to split because you might have overloaded it with something, and then when that bag breaks, you might not have another one, and you're trying to file all that into another bag, and yeah, so it can get a bit messy.
Wow. We all
Okay.
know that our planet is in danger. Do you think SpoGomi is a big step towards fixing the issue?
Yeah, I think so. Spagomi was originally created because the Nippon Foundation in Japan, which is a not-for-profit foundation, wanted to help tackle the marine litter that we're seeing in the world. And we know that about 80% of litter that ends up in the sea and the oceans actually comes from urban areas. So they're trying to basically tackle us picking it up in the urban areas so that it doesn't end up in the sea. And I think it's, going to be a hugely successful campaign, which is just in the early stage of really becoming globalized and well known. And I think what's really great about Spagomi is it makes something that people might not have considered doing fun. And it makes something that people see as a kind of chore or a task. It gamifies it and makes it into something that's actually really fun to take part in and can be really competitive. So I think it's a great initiative and something I'm really, really happy to be part of.
How many countries are involved with SpoGomi?
So in the first World Cup, there was 21 countries that took part, and in this World Cup, they've extended it to over 30, and they're going through the qualifying processes at the moment. So we will see how many we end up with in the World Cup, which is taking part in October.
Wow. And you're hoping to take part and defend your title?
So I've been invited back to the World Cup this year in October, but I'm not going to be taking part in a competitive role. They want to kind of give other teams an opportunity to take on the title. But I will be able to compete just for the fun of playing Spagome and to kind of show people the process of what it is like taking part in the World Cup. But I won't be in the leaderboard, unfortunately.
Okay. And how do you think that our young listeners can help with solving the climate change?
I think young listeners nowadays certainly know a lot more about climate change and how to act responsibly for our planet than, for example, I may have growing up, which I think schools are doing an excellent job, and things like Team Buzz Radio and being very environmentally driven are doing a great job at getting that message out there. I think remaining positive about things and just taking on their what can you do as an individual and what can you do as a community as well to help with climate change. So that's what I like about SpoGomi is although it's an individual thing that you might go out and play with your friends or go and pick up litter with your friends, you are actually making a community impact and you're trying to clean up for your whole sense of community. It's not like you're just cleaning up your garden or your recycling bin. You're doing something around all the streets of your local area. And that kind of community spirit, I think, is what we need to do more of in climate change and in just in future, in order to, have a healthier and happier planet, I think.
And finally, if some of our listeners want to get involved in SpoGomi, where would they look? Where would they go?
Yeah, so there's a SpoGomi World Cup website. If you just type SpoGomi World Cup into Google, it'll come up. The website's made with the Nippon Foundation. And on that website, you'll be able to see when your qualifying event is in your country. So I think quite a few of them have already happened around Europe, so you might need to be quick. I know that you can still sign up for the UK event, which is taking place on the 27th of July this summer.
Wow. Thank you very much, Sarah Parry. You're a wonderful, wonderful person for doing this for Gomi. And when I saw it on TV, I thought, I've got to get hold of this Sarah Parry to talk about it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me on.